Chapter 100. Ah, Han Wai Imo's eyes gradually filled with panic. Aren't those harpoons in the holes? Hearing Han Wai Imo's word, Diao Ji Jin resolutely put down the table top and walked to the wall to look into those holes. It didn't matter if he didn't look, but he was startled when he did. Damn it, he shouted loudly and quickly took a few steps back. They are indeed harpoons. The holes are full of harpoons that are retreating. Everyone was in a panic, and shouts and screams came one after another. However, Kaija had always been looking at Han Wai Imo with a complicated expression on his face. Did you already know that there were harpoons inside? Kaija asked. No, I just happened to see it just now. Han Wai Imo's eyes kept dodging, obviously lying. Could it be that you also? Kaija stared blankly at Han Wai Imo, but still swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Han Wai Imo also remembered he had concealed this fact from another aspect. It seemed that those who remembered the previous events had all received the cards from the man sheep. Since Kaija didn't know what would happen if he exposed his memory, he could only choose not to expose him. There's no need to be afraid. Kaija changed the topic and looked at Han Wai Imo seriously, saying in a low voice, "The harpoons won't pierce through you this time." But Kaija, Han Wai Imo seemed to have something to say too, but he just didn't know how to start. If Kaija guessed correctly, what Han Wai Imo wanted to say was, "I was pierced through last time. This time we'll adjust our positions. You stand between me and Officer Lee." Kaija looked in the direction of everyone. If there are no gaps around you, there's no reason for the harpoons to pierce through you. Han Wai Imo gave Kaija a grateful look and nodded blankly. After everyone calmed down, Kaija rearranged the positions of the team. He tried his best to ensure that there was a man beside each woman, and protected Han Wai Imo. Anyway, Han Wai Imo was also an echoer, and it wouldn't be wrong to save his life. Besides, I'd arrange an emergency plan. Everyone, come here for a moment. Kaija directed everyone and said, if someone's tabletop becomes unstable later, after Kaija had arranged everything, he asked everyone to stand in formation in advance and put all the table tops together to form an unbreakable cone. The people standing in the cone had their backs against each other. It was so dark that there wasn't a single ray of light. Kaija could feel that Han Wai Imo beside him was constantly trembling, as if this formation didn't give him any sense of security at all. Sorry, Han Wai Imo seemed to know that he was attracting a lot of attention and could only apologize in a low voice. I've always had claustrophobia. I've been afraid of enclosed spaces and dark environments since I was a child. As soon as these words came out, Kaija suddenly thought of something. Han Wai Imo was shot by a harpoon in the dark opponent was pierced by a giant sword in the dark dawn. Was it all related to his claustrophobia? Suddenly, a huge sound of breaking wind rang out around the cone. Here it comes! At TXIA's command, everyone began to shift their weight gently and firmly held the tabletops in front of them. After all, TXIA's strategy seemed foolproof, and the most important thing now was to ensure the firmness of the cone. The harpoons began to fall on the cone like a storm, and everyone just felt that their palms were aching from the shock. Fortunately, the 9 people were psychologically prepared this time, and the cone was unbelievably solid. Then, a huge noise appeared in front of Xiao Ran, and the tabletop in her hand was instantly knocked askew. A dazzling light shone through the crack, and Kaija immediately felt something was wrong. After all, Han Wai Imo was right behind Xiao Ran, and if a harpoon shot through this crack, it would definitely kill Han Wai Imo. Turn! Kaija shouted loudly. Everyone got the order and quickly turned to the right with the tabletops. The whole cone was like a spinning top in the rainstorm. At this time, it not only contacted the harpoons at an inclined plane, but also kept spinning. Some harpoons that wanted to enter the crack were all kept out. After 2 rounds, Dr. Xiao beside them helped Xiao Ran steady the tabletop. Stop! Kaija shouted again, and everyone steadied the tabletops once more, like spring bamboo shoots taking root on the ground after the rain. As the collision sounds near the tabletops gradually decreased, the attacks of the harpoon slowed down. Another half a minute passed, and those collisions couldn't be heard at all. Is it over? Someone asked in a low voice. Wait for another minute, Tijal said very cautiously. Naturally, no one objected, and they quietly waited for another minute in the extremely quiet calm. Tijal carefully lifted the tabletop. He looked at the now safe room, reached out and patted Han Yimo's shoulder, saying, Look, we'll be okay. Han Yimo was still trembling, but he still nodded gratefully. Is it okay? And I always feel. The rest of the people also lifted the table tops one after another, but were so shocked by the scene in front of them that they couldn't say a word. The two corpses on the ground were now covered with harpoons like hedgehogs, and blood was splattered everywhere, looking like a hellish scene. Oh, what's this? Officer Lee picked up a harpoon on the ground with exaggerated acting skills. There seemed to be words on it. Kijal shook his head helplessly. It was really hard for Officer Lee to do such a thing. While Officer Lee led everyone to check the harpoon, Shaw checked Han Yimo's situation again. Although he still looked scared, he was in a much better state than before. Han Yimo, I told you that we'd be okay this time. Han Yimo smiled bitterly after hearing this and said, Tijal, thank you, but I don't know why. I always feel that those harpoons will definitely hit me. Tijal was just about to say something when he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Somewhere in this room, a faint sound of chains could still be heard. Were there still harpoons? He seemed to have discovered something at this moment too. There was a rope that was now stretched straight and hung in the middle of the room in Midra. What's going on here? Kayaoji Ajin looked at the rope and found that both ends of it were in the holes, which was very different from the ropes tied to the harpoons on the ground. Dijon also felt a bit puzzled. Why were both ends of the rope in the holes? Where were the harpoons? Kayaoji Ajin walked forward and gently touched the rope, finding that it was shaking slightly. How strange. He tried to pull the rope and found that it could actually be pulled out. Dijon was slightly stunned and instantly thought of something. That was not a rope hanging in Midra at all. Instead, a harpoon had accidentally shot into one of the holes in the wall, and this harpoon had jammed another harpoon. Tiyao Jin, don't touch it.